hope.
Welcome.
Welcome back.
So, Ilmenit, you were saying?
No, I was asked to say,
Okay, we should be live now.
Hello, everyone again.
Dropping 50% of the packets, but we should be live, and I hope it's watchable. If it's not, I apologize. Ilmenit, tell us about this entry that we were watching, the winner of the Virtual Console 256 bytes Marbles and Marmor by disappearing Hellmood, that he went for a beer or something.
Right. So, as I said, I'm happy that Hellmood is not happy with this entry and that it won, because I had quite similar opinion that there were better ones. Personally, I'm surprised by how many points it got, because my opinion is that it's quite basic. But that's it.
Even Atari could do this.
In fact, yeah. In fact, probably with not that many balls, but yeah.
Okay, fair enough. Let's move on to the next category. And the first entry that I have to show is A2 Inside. And I probably will have to reset Watch Together because I had to change networks and stuff. So let's try this. Maximize this.
We've been trying to move along while you were having problems. So we've already seen that one.
You're gonna see it again.
That's all right. It was
if I can play it. By Dieter for the Apple II. So Dieter submitted a lot of Apple II stuff. This one was one of the more interesting for me because we had so many Sierpinskis on the damn compos, and this one felt like meta, like we were watching what we were watching. An old school computer doing a Sierpinski. I really like this one. What were your thoughts about this? Ilmenit, I guess you're the closest person to know something about the Apple II, even though you probably don't know much.
Yeah, so I watched the seminar by Dieter about Apple II programming, and I think it's very, very interesting machine, and there is much more potential. So after this, I was reading the source code of Apple II and comparing it to the ROM of Atari, and it's amazing. And I believe that what Dieter did this year with the entries is just the beginning, because there is so much potential in this platform. This platform is so strong for size coding that it's going to be crazy the next years. And this one is a very good example of the platform limitations. So you have to get creative, and I really like this about, and that's why I'm doing size coding on old gen platforms, because it really requires a lot of creativity when you don't have that much computational power or instruction set for making things. So I like it.
Okay. Rrrola, what did you think about it?
I really like the colors. I originally thought it was a built-in image or something, but then I was proved wrong. It's just drawn by the program. So as I've already said before on lovebyte, I really like intros that use the creativity to create some kind of image or content, and it's really the best seen on these old platforms that don't have a lot of computational power. So I always enjoy these competitions.
Mm-hmm.
Hellmood, this one was pretty cool.
Hellmood, did you have any thoughts on this one in particular?
Yeah, pretty much the same. I like the intention thought, and I like that the limitations bring up the creativity in Dieter, and I hope it's true what Ilmenit says, because I can't judge the hardware, but if this is the beginning, I'm very much looking forward what the end of this is going to be.
Dieter has been doing a lot of stuff for the Apple II.
Yeah, totally.
I think the next one that we're playing is also by him. It's Rrrola, mentioned Rrrola on the Apple II, and this was pretty cute. With sound and everything. I think I have to disable sound here, actually. Yes. So yeah, this one I understood why this one got more votes, and I mean it has sound, it has a gimmick, meme sort of thing. So this one was totally fun to see. Next up, we have not this one. This one is here by mistake. We have this one, Nematodes for the Atari. So Ilmenit, what can you tell us about this one?
So it's very nice code showing some capabilities of the machine with the palette and the sprites it has. I really like how visually it fits because just making some sine waves randomly would not bring any effect, but here you see them kind of working together. So quite visually impressive for me.
Hellmood, were you impressed by this as well, or not knowing the Atari sort of doesn't make it as interesting?
I always admire the colors. Like I'm just pleased to see the colors, and this is, I think, what I wrote on pt2. I just wrote pleasing, and it's like a composition of waves, and it just works. Like I can't even explain why. It's just it moves very smooth and very nice together, and it looks pleasant. It just satisfies my visual cortex. I just can say that.
Another one that was for the Atari and also quite colorful was this one, Diamonds Are Forever, with music. For me, this wasn't particularly interesting. I didn't really get why it got upvoted that much. So Ilmenit, can you explain to me why this one is so much better than everything else that was submitted for the Atari?
It's quite technically impressive. So first of all, it has music, procedural generated music with some melody, some background, and it's on multiple channels, which is also increasing the size of the code. What's interesting here is the use of the chipset capabilities for doing scrolling. And I didn't look at the source code of this, but I see that in fact it's using different graphics modes for making the diamonds here. So I think it's quite impressive when you look that it has the colors, it has the hardware assisted scrolling, and then the music. So it's quite a lot for this size.
Okay, I'll start to see why it's technically impressive. Rrrola, did you enjoy these Atari releases?
I sure did. I really like the procedurally generated music because I've been trying many times to do it before, and this one actually has progression. Even if it's not a harmonic progression, it changes the kind of notes it plays. It changes. So I even though I cannot judge the hardware scrolling and the shapes, I can enjoy the music, so I like this one.
Okay, another entry also for the Atari. Atari pretty much dominated this compo. Was Calamus, which has a lot of drawing. It's sort of like executable graphics, meaning that everything is like pre-rendered except for the water effect sort of thing. So I thought this one was pretty interesting, like very cute. Nice that it had like a concept behind, like a scene mounted in some way instead of just being an effect showing. So I like that part of it. Hellmood, do you have any thoughts on these intros?
I'm not even mad that people are using the computation to create something before, because I just like the concept of it. I mean, the more reduced the platform is, the more the concept can shine, and I think it does here. It just looks like you see what's going on. This is one of what I mostly say when I say Ilmenit's intros. You see something, and it just has an effect on the brain. You immediately realize it's a scene. There's a story. There's a narrative, and it works pretty good here. Like you are waiting for the setup. Okay, what is going, and you see it. I like the gradient. I like the duck or whatever. It's a bird. Maybe it's not a duck. I'm not a biologist, so I don't know. But
biologist on the Atari.
it's just lovely. I love it.
Next up, we have Sprout, also for the Atari. And Ilmenit, you were a participant in this along with String. What can you tell us about this one?
So this one was an attempt to create something more artistic. It has music. There was discussion, I think, with Rrrola. We had in chat on Twitch that what kind of music is possible in size coding, and this one was actually composed by a musician from our agenda group. So it's. The effect, if you think it's not that complex, but I was trying to make it like good looking and artistic looking with black and white color. It's in high res, which is similar to low res on DOS, but on Atari it has only 2 colors. So black and white was selected there, and I hope it fits well with the music.
It reminded me a lot of a demo that I did with CPU guys for the Spectrum. Your Song is Quiet Part 2. It had a very similar effect. It didn't fade out, but it had like a vector line growing sort of thing. And this reminded me a lot of that. So yeah, that's my feedback. If you don't know that demo, go watch it. It's awesome and a very similar effect to this. Hellmood, do you have any thoughts on this one?
Yeah, I think it's very poetic, and I don't know if I remember your demo or whatever that was, but I have a few demos in mind which have this similar thing. But I think also that the notes, like the actual composition, is noteworthy here because it's not like a procedurally generated something. It's a melody with progression, and it's quite fitting. It's I still can emphasize again that that's amazing what restrictions bring up as in concepts and art. Like this is very artsy, this one. I just had to check if I'd already commented it because like it was 200 something releases on the full, but I just wrote yes, like yes. Yes.
That's a very constructive commentary right there.
Go in this direction, algorithm. Yes.
Rrrola, do you have any thoughts on this one?
I like the fading out. I really like the chord progression. It has a surprise in the 4th chord, which leads nicely into the back into the 1st, and also the particles are having interesting paths. So I like everything about that. I didn't know that these are the only 2 colors you can use in high res.
Next up, we have Quarter Express. This one won the compo, and well-deservingly. A bit inspired by Digimine's Monorail, I think was called.
Yep, exactly. So it started as an attempt to basically create one-to-one copy of Digimine intro, and then when I started to do it, I had more and more ideas how to do it differently, and basically it went to a very different direction.
It's nice that you managed to have like a Steam sort of sound or a Steam rail sort of sound to it. Really helps a lot. It's missing the rest of the composition of the train though. Not enough bytes.
Yeah, exactly. So I was aiming to have some mountains in the back and some wagons there, but there was simply no space for it, and I spent a lot of time on optimizing this one. So I hardly believe there was space to add anything more to this. And with the sound, it's interesting because the sound is kind of inspired by a very old basic program from Atari manual. And when I was a kid and I typed it, this basic program, it was very long at the time, and it was basically only making this sound and printing on the screen toot word. And so I was totally disappointed as a kid that with such long program generated that little. And I hope that maybe once my son, if he type or look at the source code of this, won't be that disappointed like I was.
Yeah, it's one thing when we are learning programming, like, why are we writing so many instructions for something so small to happen? It should be a lot more, one-to-one than that. So, yeah, definitely. Hellmood, do you have any thoughts on this?
Yeah, the first thing which came to mind was like the setup. As it's apparently it's the train, the famous train from the DOS era, but it's so much going on. I can say I'm glad that this time you weren't dropped off the first place like the other one. So this time, Ilmenit, you won rightfully, and I think this is one of the candidates for both Nano Awards and Meteorics. Like because it's a story, it's a concept, it's a beautiful palette. Even more than the other one, like what was the other one, Sprout or whatever. Like this is by far the best. Like I'm impressed. I'm amazed.
Rrrola, do you agree?
Yeah, I agree. I particularly like how the train is composed of characters and uses dollars for the Steam. It's really nice.
Let's move on to another compo and watch One Day, One Love by BFox for the Spectrum. This one got third place at the old school 128 byte intro. So half of the previous compo that we just saw. It's a beating heart. I like this one. I can understand why I got third place. Simple, but works well. Ilmenit, any thoughts?
Yeah, so I really like it because if you think about the platform limitations and that 128 bytes is very little, it's really about getting creative, and it's very simple, but I think it proves that you do not need fancy effects to achieve some artistic value. So for me, it's like one of the best things in this old school category.
I think the most interesting thing is that the animation is done using the, I think is it blink or whatever it's called, like to switch between the foreground color and the background color. And if they configure the bytes just right on that character, what is the foreground color and the background color, and make it blink like that, you have this nice animation. So I really like that small trick that they had there. Hellmood, do you have any particular thoughts about this one and the whole 128 byte compo overall?
I cannot judge it that much actually, but this is just lovely. I just had to go to Pool to check if I just voted on it, and I did not. And this is not a surprise because we had like 200 productions, so I'm behind on voting. So I just spread the love to the chat and said it gives us more love because this guy is giving love to the scene, so we have to give him some love back.
And Tomcat is saying on the chat that this has sound, yeah.
Yes, it has. It's like almost a heartbeat. Yeah.
Rrrola, do you have any thoughts on this one?
Yeah, I was really not surprised, but delighted by when I saw this one, because it was obvious how it worked for me. Like it's all in the attributes and with the blink thing, but it's such a creative use of that. So I really like this one.
Gazman is correcting us on the chat that it's called Flash, not Blink. So yeah.
Okay, it's Flash and right.
Yeah, really nice. Let's take a look at the second place entry, which was also by Ilmenit. It's like a variation of your 32 byte. I like this one a bit better. It looks crap on the stream though, because of the whole character mess. So this is one of those that you really need to see it on real hardware. How did you get those stuff outside the borders though? Is that like sprites of the Atari?
Yeah, exactly. So it's not only on the border, but you don't see it, but it's also on the main screen. And it was added to give some depth to this, because I had this plasma-like effect from the unfolding like 64 bytes, and I was thinking, okay, what I can do to give some impression with plasma effect, because it's plasma is totally boring old school effect that you can just display it maybe with some nice colors like Hellmood did. But I was thinking, okay, so what next? So I was thinking, okay, so the plasma, so let's try to make it more organic and into kind of organic life form, alien life form, and alien means like scary. So I was trying to make it like with kind of underwater or under microscope scary something, and that was kind of like trying to make some feeling to this.
I really need to rewatch this one in an emulator because I think it really loses a lot on video. Like the encoding of it is probably screwing up the perception of like the characters moving and stuff like that. Hellmood, do you have any thoughts on this one?
Yes, I just voted into the chat. It needs more votes because I also overlooked it. I remember it from the party itself, but I forgot to vote on it. I just did it because it rules. I think the sound is very impressive on this, and the particles out of the borders reminded me firsthand of Centurio from Board Surfer. Like it looks like an organic particle stream or whatever. Just as a byproduct of the real effect with the sounds. But what impresses me most, I think it's the sound waves. Like this is a crunchy synthesizer bass line, whatever, and it's even the notes have they produce some kind of tension. Like it sounds like a proper bass line of a dark techno track or something.
Menacing alien life form. Rrrola, do you have anything to add?
I don't think I can have I have anything to add. I really like the plasma effect with sprites. I think it could use some more contrast between the sprites and the plasma colors, but that's just because of the stream. So I need to rewatch it in an emulator. Also, the characters are really well used. I don't understand how they work. So
yeah, so maybe I can give some insight. So the characters are in fact part of the ROM. So there in the ROM there are some tables of some values, and it's basically just displaying this into character set. So I found some very nice area in the ROM for it, and the sound. I got inspired by some very old book about programming the Atari, and they gave a hint that if you on two channels make the sound waves of very similar frequency, it's producing this type of sound. So it's basically two channels added together of the square wave. So that's very interesting.
Okay, let's move on to the winner of the compo, which was Magenta Warrior. Wait, no, this was the winner. Hold on, I need to look at the results. This won the compo, the old school 128 bytes. Okay, that's settled. This one, congratulations, Ilmenit. Next up, we're gonna watch one of the games that was released, like game in 256 bytes, made by Joker. I believe it was third place. Yeah, Warrior Magenta on the Cheese Moon. Love the loading sound of the Spectrum. Brings back so many memories of our tape loading error while we were trying to eat our tea. Have to dodge everything. So, how hard is it to make a game in 256 bytes? Ilmenit, did you give it a go?
In fact, I did, but I wasn't able to finish before the deadline because of some other responsibilities. And it's quite challenging if you really want to invest into having some gameplay, like actual gameplay. Because making some effects, that's just effect. And I think this one is really making a challenging game. So I really like it, and it has a scrolling, it has some interesting colors, and even the parallax in the background. So very nice.
Hellmood, what are your thoughts on 256 byte games?
Yeah, what he just said, it's impressive to just come up with the game, and it works in this case. It has a very nice background. It's a good mechanic. I personally, I keep away from 256 byte games because games are like you just said a minute. Effects are one thing, but a game has to be pleasant. So how can you size code a game?
Effect needs to be pleasant as well.
Well, yeah, but
what kind
a
of
game
logic is that?
but we had lots of gaming discussions, like what can a game. I try to keep away. I mean, I think. Well, it's personal. It's personal for me because 256 bytes is already a lot of space to fill for me, and to do a game is like it's just too much. I think I would just go insane to do a game. Like I think I did stuff before, but it's tough because it's not about like this works or it does not work, but you gradually can fuck up your game if you cut off too much. Or like the steering, like do you use the arrows or do you use letters because it saves the byte? Do you have a bleep or a real sound, or do you want more smooth animation or less smooth animation? And it's not like you don't the player doesn't just look at it; he plays it. There's something more going on because there's an interaction between the individual and the thing, not just watching it and then they're giving a thumb or thumb down. It's like a constant interaction, and then at the end of this constant interaction there's a thumb or not. And this to plan this out is I think this is the reason that for that anybody trying to do games in 256 deserves my utmost respect, because it's not an easy thing to do. You have to think about so many components, and I think I was in this case I think it was shown not that late. It was shown quite early, and I was thinking, why do they show it that early? Because it's a good game, but there are other games afterwards.
I don't think they ordered the entries in the compos at all. At least I had a discussion with Super Oak, and he was telling me that he wasn't going to do that. So most of the entries that ended up being like at the end of the compo, the best ones were because they were the last people to submit.
I see.
So
because I liked this one pretty much already. So it has all these things a game needs. It has a mechanic, it has good graphics, it has a decent speed, and it has a background which has a parallax effect. So everything you could expect from a game. And in 128 and 256, sorry.
156,
yeah. In a platform where that space is pretty easily filled with stuff already. So yeah, just
Genio on the chat is saying that we should quote you that 256 byte is too much for me.
It's true. It's just too much space. I'm losing my mind.
Rrrola, do you have any comments on this? Or Ilmenit, did you want to say something?
Yeah, I just wanted to add, because as Hellmood said, it's like really challenging to make games, but out of Lovebyte there is one very interesting event dedicated to size coding of games. In fact, even less than 256. It's called NOMEM. It's about basic games, and what guys are able to do there is mind-blowing, like totally. So I really recommend to look at this. I'll put it to the chat later, because they did SimCity in 256. I think they did Moon Patrol, like totally crazy things. So I'll put a link there.
Interesting stuff. Rrrola, do you have any thoughts?
Well, I've tried a few games in 256, but the main creativity drive shows up when you don't have a predefined game that you need to implement, like Tetris or Asteroids. So I was really sorry that I missed the competition, and I'm seeing this for the first time because it's a really creative use of the static spectrum capabilities. It's also a Flappy Bird game. I love these. So.
Let's take a look at another game. This one was made for the TIC 80. It's called Skip Ahead. I really like this one. I thought that this one would win. It's like a really good implementation. I don't know what the original name is called, but this one looked pretty solid. Hellmood, do you have any thoughts?
Yeah, I share the impression that this should have won. Didn't it win?
No, I got second place. Super Rogue won.
Oh. Okay, yeah, I was very impressed by this. It has like the instant feeling of it's a good game. It's a platformer. It has the physics look good. The graphics might be a bit simplistic, but it's a TIC 80. What can you expect? But it was like a complete satisfying game.
Like the perspective and everything. I mean,
it just looks like real, and it looks like a game you would Sorry, I have this one memory from way back then when there was on a 32 or 64-bit console like this weird round trip shooting game, and this was the first impression I had. And then from the JS1K, there was one game from the JS1K from Poi, I think, where he did almost the same, like where you had to drive through a road. I might look that up. Maybe I find out which game was it. And this is like in quarter the space, and yeah, it just works. Like it's a good game. You know, this is already enough. It's a good 3D game. Yeah. So this is my first. This is my favorite from the competition actually.
Ilmenit, do you have any thoughts on this one?
It's quite amazing. So the concept is as old as computer games, with basically jumping over some platforms, but the execution is great, and it has even timer or score. So very nice.
Let's move on to the winner, which was Bytestorm, also for the TIC 80. I mean, this is an okay game, and I didn't think it was winner worthy though. That's my personal opinion, but it was decent. So I don't know. What are your opinions about it, Hellmood? Do you have any thoughts?
Yeah, because without knowledge of this game, I coded the marbles and marmor, and it has like the same effect. You know, you have the floor effect and the bolts more or less. And so I was like impressed that I can see a game with it. You know, because I just did the effect like the floor and the marbles, but he made an actual game of it. So that is kind of impressive actually. But you know, I wasn't that impressed by the graphics because I did the graphics myself. So I was thinking in my head, like if I remove the colors and all the fancy shading effects and add a bit of game logics, then I would have had the same. So I think this would have like close second place behind the other one game, but yeah, still it's a good game.
Yeah. Rrrola, do you have any comments?
I like the previous one because of the correct platformer physics, where you can hold the key longer to jump higher, and this one is more like an intro. I think it creates an effect, and there's the level change with the colors on the floor and on the ceiling, and I was expecting more level changes afterwards. So I was a little disappointed with this one. I don't know if I can judge it by the technical issues or things like that. But
I think that proves my point actually, because like there's a player and he has expectations, and he's like, I'm expecting level changes, and I think it's extremely hard to come up with something that satisfies the players, because players expect something because they see something and then they are reminded of something, and they're like, then it has to be like this. And how do you prepare for that as a coder? How can you possibly know?
It should be a shooter.
Yeah, it's missing to shoot the things. You also want the sheep to go to the right and back, and a lot of small details. Like you want this to be like
collect power ups.
Yeah, all those things.
That's how this is. I mean, the art is then how to do a game so that nobody expects stuff that you didn't do. This is like metagaming. Like you have to. This is psychology basically.
Yeah. Okay, so moving on to the next category, we have the combined 128, and we start with Pontus, which was 4th placed by Marquee Design, so Super Rogue and Blossom, I believe. This one looked pretty good, like it had very good ambient to it. It's for DOS. Hellmood, do you want to give us your thoughts on this one?
I can remember the comments of Super Rogue himself. He was like, he forgot that it was on stream, and people are, because of the massive amount of productions, they are remembering the productions by the screenshot and by what's going on. And I think it's too subtle to be memorized by the audience. And so it just got 4th place because it's a very deep, very moody intro, a very good one. But people, if they are like then forced to vote, and they have like 200 productions to vote for, and they are like, yeah, that one, this is the blue one. Yeah, I give it 3 points or something. So it's it's ungrateful to have that thing, because it just gets lost in the mass of productions. It's quite better than the ranks. I think it could have ranked higher, like 2 places, but. Yeah, what can you do? It's too subtle to it has to be more aggressive to stand out in the pool of productions we had.
Yeah. In third place, we had Liquid Chrome for the TIC 80, which was just a plasma effect, but looked pretty good. And for 128 bytes, it's pretty decent. Rrrola, you have anything to say about this one or the previous entry?
I really like this one because I like the distorted plasma with this multiplication function, and I also like that it shows the colors, the color boundaries. It creates a nice effect instead of using dithering and stuff like that. And the Pontus intro, I think it was hurt a little by the blue palette because of streaming. Blue doesn't really compress well in modern codecs. It's actually quite impressive with the sound.
Okay, moving on. In second place, we had On the Road by Ionic of Astradia, and this one really blew me away. Like, it has sound, you hear the sound, and you're like wondering what the hell is happening, and then it starts moving, and you realize, it's a car! It's moving in the road, or a motorcycle. So I really like this one. I really like that they had a concept behind the effect, and also the sound effects to match. Probably taken from the MIDI, the sound table, I believe, but still good use of that. Ilmenit, did you have any thoughts about these entries?
Yeah, so I like that it has this build-up that you see first something kind of static, and then it starts to move, and it has a story. It has design, so I really like it.
Mm-hmm. Hellmood, you were saying that the sound you were missing like a crash in the end.
Yeah, I think it's the same psychology that you have when you do games, because once you present something, you raise expectations in the audience. And so I was like, oh yeah, he's able to tap into the MIDI sound form, okay. So now I see the story is unfolding before my eyes, and now I want, if some...
Now he reaches a house and a huge forest.
Yeah, and a house, yes, and a whole conspiracy demo or whatever. I mean, it's brilliant in the way it is, but it just shows how humans, the brains work. Like, you are presented something, and then your mind somehow completes what you just see and spins off the narrative, and then okay, and now comes the crash or the break or whatever. And if you are not presented with it in the first place, you don't expect anything. So it's weird how it works. I mean, it's good, it's brilliant, and then you see it and you want more because you know how it can unfold, depending on the skill of the coder. So maybe there's space for the two sounds, like a crash, or whereas there are a few sounds in the sound form which. There's a crash of a trash can, and then there's a woman crying, and then there's also like some guys getting punched. Like, ugh! The sound is also in that. So this is the first things I was expecting. Was like, okay, now it's coming crash. It stops again and plays the one sound. So so this is what I was expecting because I know the MIDI sound form. So yeah, but anyway, it's a very good intro. It's the narrative, it's the story, it's the setting. It's outstanding in a way. Yes.
Do you have any clue how the effect is made? Is it similar to the Polis thing that you did in 32 bytes?
It's a forecast, yes, basically, with just a check of one coordinate unprojected for the effect for the line, and then interrupted by the x coordinate. By the y coordinate. So yeah, I can imagine how it's done. And it's the grayscales. I think it's just the 16 shades of VGA anyway, and a circle which you can have. You have a center point, and you do x squared plus y squared, and you don't even need the square root because you have one constant. So I pretty much know how to code it, but it's one thing to explain an effect you see afterwards and to come up with it, to have the idea for it. So I'm not taking anything away from it. It's a really good thing.
Rrrola, did you have any thoughts on this one?
I really like the atmosphere of this one. Also, I was sad that when I was watching Lovebyte, I had a break in the stream, so I didn't catch the beginning. So originally I was only thinking there was no progression and it was only the road and the sound, and it was technically impressive even then. And artistically, so I was possibly surprised by the beginning.
Yeah. And talking about getting our minds blown, you did this thing called gyroid. What the fuck is going on? How the hell did you do this? Tell us.
Well, the main thing about this is that you don't know how many things I had to cut to make it fit. So that's the main thing that you can take it from. You can take from me. Actually, it looks kind of dull without the texture. So and the texture
What are you
is like
talking about? It
3 bytes.
does. It does have a texture. It's just like a little gradient thing. It's texture to me.
Yeah, but it was it. But for the longest time, I haven't had it in there, and it's like 4 bytes in the code, and it adds so much detail. So these things are really important, even though people stop decreasing the size when the effect is done. Just 4 bytes can improve it so much. Originally, it had a go on.
I think I asked you during the morning show that we did, but how is it even possible? I mean, this is like a version of raycasting, right? So how is this possible to have it in real time? You pre-calculate a lot of the stuff.
I actually pre-calculate a sine table. This is called a gyroid, which is a really simple sine-based periodic function. You just need to find the surface of it, and the sine. Even though we have a sine function in DOS, it's extremely slow. So I use one whole segment, like 64 kilobytes, to recalculate all the sines of one period, and then I just use normal 16-bit registers to index into that. So this has the added effect that I can actually use normal registers for the position, and I can use the FPU registers for all the other stuff. So I actually have a combination of that. I had something like that in Pulse before, where I learned that it's really an advantage to use both sets of registers at once. And in fact, this is actually a 16,000 times 16,000 voxel surface, even though you cannot see it because it's really fine. So actually it's something like voxel tracing when you think about it. You can see it on shader tie. It's pretty classic algorithm.
Okay. Ilmenit, can you do this on Atari?
Well, I wish, but no. Shortly speaking, no. It's so much computational power needed to perform that effect that no 8-bit computer will ever be able to even think about it.
Hellmood, do you have any thoughts on this one?
Yeah, a lot, because I stormed to the source, and I'm just pasting the shader toy code on the Twitch chat. This is really impressive, and not because I know a lot of stuff. You think, yeah, sine table, I know that one, and I had to look up gyroid because gyroid is actually quite a simple formula, but again, you have to come up with the idea. And when I looked at the code, I was like really stunned how compressed everything is. Even after understanding how it works, like it's remarching. It's a sine distance function, and it's actually, you see the shape and you think it's complex, but the function is rather simple. It's actually quite simple. It's just sine times cos, and then you switch the x and y coordinates and the z, and you have a simple functions. But even if you know it, how everything plays out together when you look at it, like it has sine tables for speeding up, it is a Raymarcher, and it has like a function. When you have the distance to the actual gyroid function, you have like the possibilities. Two possibilities: is it negative and positive? And this is what it makes to red and yellow. And so you have two gradients between black and the color actually, and to color it. And still, if you know all of that, if you look into the code, it's so condensed. Like everything, I think one thing is used 3 times. It's like because you have to use sine and cosine, you have to have an offset because you can express sine by cosine and vice versa. So you have an offset. Yes, and this offset is like used 3 times. Once it's the offset between sine and cosine. then it's the actual distance interpreted as a float value. So the offset is the integer, and then as a float value, that thing is the distance to the when it stops, like it comes so close to the surface that it stops. And then it's again interpreted in another way. It's scaled because you have to scale up the signs to an integer value to work with it. So that and the fact that he uses the both sets of registers, like the FPUs and the 16-bit registers, and on the stack, and not on the stack. So he uses one set of registers for X, Y, Z, and then he pushes it, and then he continues to use the ones as a steps and the other ones as coordinates. Like, this is weird. This is crazy. This is so condensed. And so the only point I can criticize, if I may criticize everything, something, it's the texture, because I think it's not perfect. So it's a perfect intro, but the texture is not. So on Discord we have a discussion. I was like crunching that down to 117 bytes and removed everything, the colors and the texture, and tried to come up with something better. But so far I did not solve the problem, because if you look into it, the palette is actually not what you think. You see a gradient of yellow and one of red, but actually it's intertwined. It's like two colors each, and it interchanges. And then while figuring out where he is on the surface, he has an odd indexing into that palette. So if you visualize the palette, it's a mess, and the generation of the palette is also a mess. So it's like, if you want to study x86 code, like compressed code, like really condensed, brilliant code, then this is a perfect example. Like, go into it, you will discover a lot of things. Even if you think you're seasoned in x86 coding, look at this code. And one of the plus points is he explained it so well, so everything is commented. You can follow the source of what he did, because everything is commented. So
it was actually for me, because I was getting lost in the source.
Oh, you did too. Oh, okay, because I did too. So anyway, it's commented, and I just can recommend it to everybody who's coding x86 or like raycasting or whatever. Look at this code. Like, you could imagine it in 256, but the way it is compressed and intertwined together, it's great. Really awesome.
Also, one detail that I wanted to add and never mentioned before is that it's a very low frequency function. It's very smooth, and so I could get by with just a low precision CCCD trick. It actually duplicates some pixels in the X coordinate, so it's only 256 pixels wide and 200 pixels tall. So originally it was a lot more elaborate, but I found out that I can save more bytes by making it smoother. So
yes,
that's
and I tried to fix that. I tried to reintroduce a higher resolution, but I forgot that every register is used in that. So normally you can flip AX and BX to have more precision, but BX already holds the timing, like the timer, and the Z coordinates. So it was not possible to apply my trick there. So, and he's right. It looks totally smooth as is. You wouldn't imagine that actually 25% of the pixels are like cloned in the X direction, but you don't see it, so it works well as it is.
Good, nice. You did a TIC80 version of this, didn't you, Hellmood?
Yeah, I did. I didn't match the 128 byte because it's a TIC80, but actually it was a huge help that the code is available on TraderToy. So it's the concept of it is not that complicated if you understand ray tracing and a bit of trigonometric functions or implicit surfaces. So it was available right there. I just could type the code like it was into the TIC80 and then apply some optimizations and then the packer, and then it went down to 256. So yeah.
Okay.
Maybe you could get in the camera rotation again. I had to cut it for the 128 intro. It looks really awesome with camera rotation. You should try some versions from the code history that's on.
Okay. I've not looked into these, because normally if I see one of your codes, especially, I just take the code and try to analyze it. I just I don't want to spoil myself with anything else. I just want to understand it as it is.
Let's go. Yeah, let's go on.
Okay. Yeah.
Okay. we had this little intermission during Lovebyte, which was awesome.
Ah, yes, this is hilarious.
The evil thing. Someone needs to code it in 32 bytes.
You just have to laugh if I see it. It's amazing. It was who was it? Genio or GBC? Who was the guy
JCO.
who produced this? GCO. Sorry.
This one is supposed to have voids. Complete. It's all player and video.
How do I get the link for this?
Look.
I don't think it's even on Poet. It's just on the YouTube Lovebyte channel.
I just wanted to share it because I share it whenever I can. Guys, we have to spread the link for this. We have to just get this known.
People watching.
I think even the clowns, the circus music is just awesome. It's just amazing. And even if it's satire, it's right in a way. So we should see it both as a boost of the size coding and also as a criticism, like what we can do better. It has a deeper function than just we're making fun of ourselves and we are ironic and blah 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 blah. It's actually we should think about that, and at the same time we should laugh about it. But I think it is like it goes in both directions. I think it's brilliant. We should spread this one more. People should know the video.
Better learn a real language like Turbo Pascal.
Like Turbo Pascal.
Everyone's time with this glitchy garbage. Also, vote for Evilbot. Evilbot out.
I thought it was awesome to have this little
Yeah,
thing in the middle
brilliant.
of the compo.
It's brilliant.
Anyways, moving on to the final category that we have to talk about today. 256 bytes. I start with an entry by Optimus, which got 7th place. It's not mind-blowing, but it has a couple nice effects in it. So, although a bit ugly colors, in my humble opinion. But what did you guys think about it? Ilmenit.
It's quite old school if you think about the effect. So I think everybody who did some size coding on any platform more or less understand what's behind it. And as I said, like colors are not the best, but the layers of effects and having in fact multiple of them there, it's I think quite interesting.
Hellmood, do you have any thoughts on this one?
Yeah, I'm not too impressed by this one actually because it shows something technically, but it's a bit off. Like there should be. Yeah, I mean I know the palette from the behind is from Gitter from Frag, so I know the palettes, and yeah, it's a technical show off. I'm sorry, I don't want to be negative, so I just respect everyone who codes in this tiny amount of size. It's a multiple effect demo, but it's just there's missing some polish. I think it's too raw.
Sound?
It's an
Missing sound as well. I think, is it mandatory for 256 bytes to always have sound these days? Because I was under the impression that on DOS you kind of have to have sound on 256
Well, if you go
bytes.
for MIDI, then maybe yes. If you don't go for MIDI, then it's a different story. So and also you don't have to have sound. I mean, it's possible. So I think the perfect intro would always have sound in 256, but you don't have to. So yeah, actually. I would do different stuff here, like there's the smoothness lacking between fore and background, and you should for the background the gradients you should flip it every second band should be flipped. So there are a few tricks you can apply to make it look better instantly. So as of now, it's just a raw diamond before you perfect it.
Mm-hmm.
So there's so much potential going on, and you were like, yeah, that's awesome if you do something else, and then it's perfect. But these steps are missing from how you got from raw to perfect.
Rrrola, do you have any thoughts on this one?
I really like this one code-wise. That it has multiple parts and multiple effects, but the colors need some work. That's like the thing that's missing from this intro. Mm-hmm. It is the nice palette, the nice eight grading palette, a little in a little weird way, I think.
Mm.
But the the code is pretty nice, and I don't think I would do something like this in 2D because I've seen intros that has have executed these effects better. But why not? It's awesome to just to code something and send it.
Next up, we have inversionism, and this one is for the Raspberry Pi, I believe, made by Kumel. I have difficulties knowing the limits of the platform, so I for me it's hard to judge. But what did you guys think about this one, Hellmood?
The thing you first notice, which goes unnoticed normally, is it's high res and it's true color. So this is things that DOS cannot do that easily. I mean, maybe this effect is possible if you have VESA or whatever, but it has very high resolution, and the red, green, and blue channel actually they have a different phase. So this is very difficult to achieve if you don't have high res and true color. So, and this is what Kumel is normally styling upon us with. Like he's using this high res true color thingy, very smooth. There's no visible artifact showing some kind of interlacing or like ray. How is it called? Chasing the beam racing. So there's nothing going on like this. It's just it's very shiny, very sharp, very precise, and there's maybe there could be more content, but this is not what this guy is doing. He's just going for the crystal clear, for the crisp thingies. No pixels. You just see borders. You don't see any pixels. It's just too fine to see. So yeah, it's a technical demonstration of the superior new era compared to DOS.
The era of true color.
Yeah.
Rrrola, do you have any thoughts on this one?
I think it could be achieved maybe in an 8-bit platform, because it's one of the effects that can be pre-computed and then indexed. If you think about it, so I think it would be really nice to do something in true color, but it's really difficult to get the colors right for the intro later, because you suddenly have different trade-offs than you have with the palette. So it would be interesting to try. Also, it's I think ARM Neon or ARM instructions, which would be interesting to learn for the Raspberry Pi. So I hope to see more things for this platform in the future.
Ilmenit, do you have any thoughts on this one?
Yeah, so first of all, it's a new platform, so it's quite unexplored, and I'm happy to see more entries out of DOS, because that's where basically dominance currently is, and I'm really curious what are the capabilities, and I think it may end up like we have with those old platforms where you have Commodore, ZX, and Atari, and Apple, and all of them had specific capabilities, like Hellmood said, like ability to do high-res with like big palette. So I think we may expect that in the future there will be even more platforms, and that's gonna be interesting, because I think DOS dominance might end up, and to be an expert, you really need time to invest into specific platform, and to invest into specific intro. And as soon as the number of platforms will grow, we may expect new people to arrive on those platforms, and basically there will be more competition, not of basically the same people all the time doing the same platform, but I think it will get diverse in the future, and I really like this trend.
The only thing I don't really like as much of this trend is that when you don't know all the platforms very well, it's really hard to compare against one another. So if you have a compo and you put everything in, it always ends up feeling like one of the platforms gets slightly upvoted because either more people from that platform are present, or there's not as much knowledge from the audience of what makes this particular production particularly interesting. So that's what scares me a little bit in that regard. But other than that, I mean, the more platforms, the better. I just wish there were like specific combos for specific platforms instead of bundling everything into like the old school category. And we have ZX and Apple and Atari fighting for attention. But yeah, that's just my opinion. Anyways, let's move on to the next entry, which is Zolta. No, we already saw this one. I'm going the other way around. Next up is Air Screw by Abaddon, which is like fake high resolution sort of thing. So it looks nice. It's a nice trick. It doesn't really give me any aesthetic vibes. I mean, it looks aesthetic, but it's not really my cup of tea. I don't know. What did you guys think, Hellmood?
Yeah, the thing you might not notice is, first of all, the subtle shadows. There's the first bubbles cast on the background, so this is the first nice thing. And then, I mean, it's a technical thing. It's high resolution, again. It's not your normal resolution, it's high resolution. And also, you have gradients that imply that it's true color.
Mm-hmm.
You can't achieve that with a restricted palette. So, yeah, you have to know the things to appreciate them. I mean, still, it's a fake 3D. It's not really spheres. It's like more like circles with a shading. So to set it more, like to make it really outstanding, I think you have to go a bit deeper than that. So yeah, I mean, it's shadows, true color, the hotspots, the lighting spots are on there. It's pretty good as it is, because it's already really shiny. But I mean, maybe you're right. There's the setting point is missing. Like there is a tiny bit missing to lift it to the wow domain. Right? You really go oh. So I think it's pretty cool, but there's a bit missing, like to lift it to the awesome category, to the outstanding category.
Tomcat is correcting me on the chat that this is standard resolution, not high resolution.
Even better. So he got me on that one. He tricked me. This is too what? No.
The gradients look very smooth. That's why we assumed it's high resolution. But yeah, it is pixeled, so it makes sense that it's standard resolution. So anyways, let's move on to the next entry, which is Nebaduni, Heaven and Dunes. And this one is by Rrrola, I believe, who is still connection interrupted. Hope he will be able to return. What did you guys think of this in particular? I mean, I wasn't extremely impressed, but it does look interesting. Hellmood, do you want to have a go at it?
Yeah, I think all the polygonal entries, like if you have a real grid of something, they are all heavily underrated. Like look on Pruitt, if you have something like if somebody has a polygon forming a shape, a circle or whatever, or if you have a triangle or even a quad, a normal cube, people are like, yeah, I'm not impressed. But what they don't realize is if you have an actual shape, like with corners and what is the sound? Who is it?
The sound of Rrrola returning.
Okay, I try to ignore that. Anyway, so if you look at something like this, the first thing you have to notice, first, it's a compression, it's a video. So if you run the real thing, because it's a high resolution effect again, you will see it much, much more crisp. So the first thing is you have to run it on your system, on your local system. Even emulator is fine, because I actually tried to recapture this for Rrrola to have a better YouTube video, and I failed too, because these things are 1 pixel wide, so you don't see it. So first of all, run it on a real system, it will look much, much better. And the second is like, try to make it up in your head. Like, what is this? This is no simple formula. There's something going on in the background. There's a lot of mathematics involved to have this. And I think we have this, especially, there's one guy from Russia doing that all the time. Like there's a shape inside a shape, like a triangle and a quad and a 5, whatever this is called, polygon in 2D. So there's one guy already doing this in 256 bytes, but in 2D, and it is quite impressive. And now we have it in 3D, and it's fluent, and it looks good. I think the palette, I think I know the palette where this is coming from. So my impression is every time you do this in a size coding scene, like this 3D polygons, it is underrated and is not getting the love it should get because people are not, for whatever reason, they are not appreciating what they are seeing. They are
I don't
like,
really
oh
see
yeah,
the technical excellence in it. I see a line drawing, and I know that it's high resolution. I don't really understand why it's mind blowing. That was my take on it, on why it didn't get higher votes. But Rrrola, are you back with us? Can you tell us a little bit?
I'm back. I can. Well, this one was a little bit of a combo filler. The story is that 3 years ago I coded I tried to do something in mode 12, the highest mode with 16 colors under DOS, and the mode is really hard to access, especially compared with the one pixel per byte low res high color 320 by 200 that everyone uses for everything. So it was kind of a failed experiment, and I wanted to do something in 256 for lovebyte to compete in the byte-a-thon. So I just took this old routine and made a sphere generator. Made the generator parametric so I can make multiple shapes, because I was inspired by some Twitter geometry animations people who do things like that all the time in processing. And also I managed to fit in a desert gradient from 3 colors that actually look pretty okay in the standard 16 color palette. So I was pretty happy with this one, how it turned out, and I didn't expect anything like a good placement. I was just happy to have a line drawing routine, and in this evil graphics mode.
Ilmenit, what did you think about this one, Ilmenit, from the Atari standpoint?
So definitely there's a heavy math in the background going, and well, not something that probably I can appreciate enough, not understanding the internals of it, because I like the aesthetics of it. It's nice, but again, it's nothing that like Geroid. It's not like jaw dropping when you look at it. So I don't have enough knowledge about the high-res on this platform to really understand how difficult it is to make this effect and to squeeze everything together at this size.
Okay. Next up, Leaving the Playground. And this was by Hellmood as well. I really like that this one had like music that actually fit the sort of effect. And this made the whole difference between, we were talking about Optimus effect previously. If it had like some sort of fitting ambient sound like this one had, would already like elevate it so much higher. So Hellmood, tell us your thoughts on this one.
Okay, I tried to make it short. So normally I do the raycasting thing. The raycasting looks very blocky, so you can just achieve so much resolution. And also you cannot reach infinite depths, because this is not something which even a modern DOS computer is capable of. So this is not raycasting, apparently. So the screen here is divided in 2 regions. The first is the plane, this one. The second is the tunnel. And just by the depths, I decide which of it is. So it's a lot of shifting around the formula. So one of the regions is always the flat plane going into the distance, and the one is a tunnel. So I switch between these two, and I have like a lot higher resolution. And also, even on slow computers, I have like infinite depths, because it's just a normal tube but interleaved. So. And maybe it becomes apparent, this is actually two intros, 2 effects. Like the first one is 228, the tunnel, and the other one is the synthesizer. So I had nothing for 256, so I just stitched these 2 together to have something. So this is a combo filler, but one of the better ones, I think, because I tried to like think of it as a mixture between the 64-byte raycasters, which are very, very blocky, and the floating point or 16-bit raycasters of Rrrola, which he presented with Geroid. So it's in between there. So I try to have a bit more resolution, still not using the FPU, but in turn of not being so great, like having the infinite depths. But you can only do so much with it. So the circles are like, a distance function in 2D, and then I trick a bit, like I know where the plane is, and so I shift the colors. So it is a bit of trickery going on, but I myself think it's not that brilliant from the graphical side. What I'm a bit more proud of is the sound, because it's a custom synthesizer with a huge reverb area. So there's a 64 kilobyte buffer just handling the sound, so you enter sound and it slowly fades away. So it has a huge echo. So the most power of computing of the whole intro goes into the sound to have this delayed echo. And I tried really hard to make it not clip. I'm not a sound guy, so it clips still a bit in the deep frequencies, and I don't know why. I tried to make it as smooth as possible, and actually this kind of technique is went into my byte beat as well, which was also, we don't show it here, but like just some signs, having some good harmonic relationships to each other to have it's just like that. It's not nothing more than that. I'm actually glad it placed third, because I wasn't expecting anything, because I didn't have anything ready for 2056. I tried just stitch two together.
Okay, next entry we have Hydraulic Pixels 2.0 by Ionic again. I really like the amount of scenes or sequences that this had. It seemed really simple, and then it started complicating. So I really like that. It felt like a more complete demo in that regard. What were your thoughts on this, Rrrola?
I was really impressed by this. I really like the first Hydraulic Pixels by the same author. And the music has nice progression. I always wanted to do something with little cube sprites like this. So I think I'm gonna look at the code deeper later in the day.
Okay, Ilmenit, did you have any thoughts on these Fodos things that we've been watching?
Yeah, so first, the Living the Playground by Hellmood is kind of old school, and if you look at this, I think it's doable on like even old gen platforms, like visually, to have very similar effect with some pre-calc done. And so I wasn't that impressed by this, but the sound is amazing, and I think it's something that is not that common on any platform in 256 with this quality of sound. So I think that's the strong point. And for Hydraulic Pixels, I think it's again a kind of old school effect that you saw, for example, in demos by Super Rogue or intros by Super Rogue, where you have those pixels and synchronized with sometimes some effect. But what I really like here is that there is this total joint effect created by music together with the sound, with the pulls, with the visuals, and it's like the disco. It's just fitting so well there that sometimes there is this saying that the real art is when you have nothing to take out of something, and I think this is it. Like every single thing there fits, and if you take something out, it just feels worse and worse. So I really like this.
Hellmood?
Yeah, I thought the first Hydraulic Pixels were not that impressive, because it was apparent to me how it works, so I was not that amazed. But this one is different, and I voted in the foot comments as well, because it's different. There's a lot more stuff going on. It's synchronized, and if you think synchronizing MIDI to the actual graphics is simple, then you are mistaken, because it's not that simple, because your MIDI synthesizer takes a while depending on what platform you're on, like Windows 10, Windows 7, Windows XP. The MIDI thing is very slow. To synchronize that it's difficult. For this one, it's pretty good, but it's still I think I miss the a better tuning of the colors, because sometimes they go like wide into the palette, like some defined shapes and then some random colors. So there's a bit of a thing I wanted to tweak, but overall it's brilliant. It has a setup, it has a scene, it has a very good synchronization, and it's like something we haven't seen before. I think like this specifically in 256 I have never seen, like with the music and with the synchronization and with like the setup of cubes which bouncing to the music. I have not seen this before, so I really prefer this one to the original hydraulic pixels.
Okay. I have to agree with you as well. I think I prefer this one as well. And then we have the winner, Up Up Down by Sensed Install. This was a bit rework of an older intro that he did, but now in like true color, high resolution, which looked so much better, so much it's not smoother, it's clean. Can I say clean? It's not really clean either. I love the refraction bit on it. I think it was pretty stylish overall. Rrrola, what were your thoughts on this one?
I meant I don't think it's high res. It's just a good old DOS 320 with the
Really?
256 palette. Yeah, it's
Wow.
it's really stylish for.
It really looks
even for
true
the-
color to me.
Yeah, it's a very good palette choice and very good shape choice, and there's been a lot of space left for the Sensen style, how people call it.
Yeah.
Especially when he didn't put text in there, that eats a lot of bytes every time. So when he focuses only on style, you get these awesome results.
Okay. Ilmenit, your opinion?
Yeah, I'm big fan of all the work that he's doing. So I'm more to interest with style, and this one is almost like feels like ultimate one that he did. I really like his previous work with the clouds and the rays. That's the one of the most stylish, and I admire it probably the most. But this one is, I think, the maybe even better than the previous one. It's so beautiful.
Hellmood.
Yeah, I know the guy personally because he's a good friend of mine, and I know his style for a while right now. So I know what he's coming up with, and all the time, like repeatedly, I'm like, he got me. Like, he's doing just line things and the textures and the reflections and the colors, and he's like designing everything. And when I was seeing this one, I was like, oh fuck, dude, you did it again! Like, you just blasted the whole competition just with this stuff you expect from him, like with good colors, with good shapes, with the setup and with the lines, and so it looks just so good. Even like people are thinking, oh yeah, it's high res and it's true color, and then no, it's not. It's just the normal resolution. It's just the normal colors. It's just everything is arranged in a way that looks good. He has a way to make things look good, really look good. And like I just wrote in the chat, no music needed. He just wins like that. He needs no music. He just puts it out like that, and yeah, it's cool. I will just post in the chat the thing you mentioned. It was a buff from Denton Style, which is like similar and yet different, because in a buff he just used standard palette of VGA, which is even more impressive because he didn't even need a color change. So yeah.
It's interesting to me how an intro without music can win the 256 byte compo. I was assuming that in 2021 all 256 byte intros had to have sound if they wanted to win, but Sense and Style at lovebyte proved us otherwise. So respect to him, and I think it's a worthy winner. So really cool to see that. Anyways, I think that's all we have for the show, unless you guys want to see anything in particular to talk about, anything that you would like to talk about related to tiny size coding and stuff like that. Anyone? Hellmood, any last words, any last thoughts on Lovebyte and all that stuff? Hopefully it will happen again next year. I think Super Rogue and Havoc are considering it. And I think it would be really interesting to if it did happen. So Hellmood, thoughts on that?
Yeah, I would love to first have a second love bite and second to help with it because I was a bit in the near of the mindset of the people while they were doing it, and I experienced like their stress a bit, like just behind the
I hope
curtains.
they will have a lot more people than they had this year.
Yes,
That's all
because
I'm
they were
gonna
just
say.
they were just two, like and of course you Piers and me and like a few guests
Like
and
Oki and Narby, but it was
yeah,
like
yeah, yeah.
minor helps, and they were the one who were
Yes.
like carrying the whole thing.
So
So
we need a lot more people, and we had a few discussions on Discord. Like people were giving feedback, and I think it was even too early because people were like Super Rogue and Havoc were just like calming down, and people were already like bombarding them with constructive feedback at least. But I was like, give them a rest. This is not a revision compo team like of 20 people. This are two
yeah.
people, and while the critics were justified, I think they did an excellent job. I was so amazed by having that, and it was I said it before, as a party that gigantic and that awesome that even Rrrola came back from the outskirts and being back again. And so I think this is already has paid off. Having Rrrola back is already a huge gain for the community. So yeah, I just can express my complete admiration for Super Rogue and the team for pulling that off. To everybody who submitted, and I like to have that back again, of course. But also, we have the revision coming up, and I think there's still a bit of time to at least code something for the 256 byte competition. So if you haven't already coded something for the 256 byte, I would suggest you do so because there's a bit of time and we have a lot of information available on the wiki size coding. We are ready. We are live, right? People are always present on the Discord. So on the size coding Discord, you can ask us questions on Pool. Everything is almost commented. So you can still code something. So everybody in the chat right now, you are invited, I think, to code something for the showdown. You and everybody. Yes.
Ilmenit, do you want to say something? Wrapping up, like how was one thing we didn't talk about the biathlon, and
Oh,
we
yes.
we do have two winners here, and a very depressed Hellmood that got swept away from from winning. So Ilmenit, I'll start with you. Congratulations on winning the
Thank you.
biathlon. Was it something you were expecting, knowing like the entries that you did, or were you taken by surprise? How was the whole experience of like planning your intro development to fit into this kind of format? Was it more interesting than the usual going to a demo party? Tell us your thoughts on that.
So the thing is that I'm not really a like demoscene guy, and if you look at what I released, I just released a few things. And the first one I released, Mona, got quite famous, and it wasn't even really for some competition. I just released it, and then I released only a few, and both were nominated to Nano Awards. And then I got first place, so it feels like wow, quite extraordinary. And so first, thanks for the votes. I'm totally surprised that I won. I didn't expect it at all, considering how many good people joined the competition. And I think competition was very strong. And well, what can I say? I tried to do my best. I tried to do something never seen, at least on Atari before, but also maybe on some other platforms. I generally, as I said previously, I don't like the old school demo effects, and I'm doing stuff for old school platforms. So I'm trying always to put some artistic value to this, because I think that okay, I have an effect, but what I can do with this from this situation. So I have a few intros in my folder, but they are just effects for now, and basically waiting to for something more for me to release them. So probably I won't release much in upcoming year or years, but whenever I will try to release, it should, at least for me, have something more than just an effect.
That's great, because a lot of the criticism that old school platforms gets is that it's like, another of those effects, another scroller, another twister, another plasma effect. Yeah, okay. What becomes really interesting and when the productions become memorable is when they have like a concept behind them, or a story or a narrative. That's when it really makes the demo or intro memorable. So it's good that you're having that mindset of not just doing one more shade bob attempt or whatever, and instead trying to make like something more solid or memorable or conceptual out of it. So I'm really looking forward to the stuff that you will do on Atari and other platforms if you ever are active on other platforms. I was going to ask you if you were doing anything for revision, but apparently you're not. So is your aim Lovebyte, or are you aiming for other more local parties, or are you
So,
just...
in fact, I was planning to do something for revision as well, but lack of time, unfortunately. Like
Okay.
family recently is taking more and more
I
time.
I
So,
feel your pain. I totally feel your pain. Okay, fair enough. Rrrola, what about you? What are your plans for world domination?
I'm planning something for revision, but you will have to wait for that because it's not ready. Even don't know how it will turn out.
Okay.
I had I had also another intro that is a very long time in the planning, but I don't think I can manage it on time. So
Ah,
you can expect more things from me in the future.
okay. Are you are you happy with the Biathlon award? Were you expecting it, considering the intros that you had planned, or was it a surprise for you?
It was kind of a surprise because I didn't expect so many entries, and I was thinking I was gonna get lost in the sea of entries, but then it clicked, and I was really proud of the three smallest sizes I made, and these were all counting equally to the whole sum of the points. So that was a good idea to start coding from the smallest size category. Also Hellmood had so many entries. I was sure he was gonna win.
It's not the quantity that matters; it's where you place.
Okay.
I had one more question, and then it suddenly went away from my mind. Oh yeah, I want to. We talked about this before, but I want to have your opinion again. What about 512 bytes? We hear a lot. I'm thinking for next love byte. Would it make sense? Do you think 256 is already overexplored? Does it make sense to have 512 bytes? I don't know, some of you have very strong opinions about this, but I never heard Rrrola speak about that. So Rrrola, I'm interested. Why is 512 bytes interesting for you, or does it feel like too much room for you to do anything interesting on?
I think that you really have to do design and music in 512 to really stand out, or not to get lost in the sea of entries that do all those things. And also that's kind of the category that compression starts to make sense. So I'm currently experimenting with that, and I haven't really released anything over 256 before, so I don't even know the landscape of the intros there. So I think it's a really worthwhile category because 1K is really a big amount of data to fill with something interesting. So 512, if I when I get more comfortable again, besides coding is the next step for me.
Yeah, because it feels like there's this limit there after 512, you sort of don't need to do assembler and like the code golf aspect of things as much. You can rely on packers and linkers and do more advanced and even do shader stuff that fits into 1K. So it starts to become more high-end machine, not as old school. So I think 512 is like the ultimate mega demo of intro space, where you can have like multiple scenes and actual like a narrative into the thing instead of just one effect kind of thing. And like everyone that I talk to with from the size coding community always feels like 512 is just too much and not that interesting, and rather stick with 256 bytes. And I always found that peculiar, because with 512 you could actually have, full proper music, not just one effect, like maybe 2, 3, and have like a proper narrative to your thing instead of being limited by all the things. Hellmood, I know you have a strong opinion about this, so I'll let you speak your case.
Well, okay. I recently changed my opinion because I felt that the Amiga was missing from the lovebyte party at all. We had one entry, and I heard, I don't know, I can judge that, but apparently these guys are into boot sector intros, which is 512, so they are not that much interested in lower sizes, and apparently these don't even exist. Like, you don't have files in a sense. You don't have 32, 64, whatever files sizes. You just have like boot sector or more. So a very strong case is to make for 512 when it comes to Amiga, because they can do something in 512. I guess they can. And the other is, I just posted in the Twitch chat one 512 byte example for Windows. Is it Windows? Let me just check again, because before I talk bullshit, it's from Tomcat Abaddon. It's the Grid 512.
Does say Windows.
Yes, so it's a Windows. So this is possible, and it looks pretty cool. It looks like a pyramid, but with a sphere which is rolling. But well, I think it's static. Well, but whatever, you get the point. So we have a very interesting sector where DOS and Windows and Amiga boot sector meet. So that could be a very interesting competition.
Would be very hard to vote, though. How the hell would you compare those different platforms?
Yeah, I think everybody wins. Like, I'm not even, like nowadays.
It would be very cool to see the compo.
Yes,
I'm just saying that the results will be pretty fucked up.
But the results are in the eyes of the whatever. I'm missing the saying here. Like
the eye of the beholder.
Yes, in the eye of the beholder. So it's what you make of the results, because of course a crowd, an audience votes it. So normally you just send your best entry, and then you get respect for what you did, and the overall placement is like. It's random. Like, I won the TIC 80s stuff, and I and other like person with a saying in this, we agree that this is not deserved, and we would have like the bloodstream have placed first. So in the end, it doesn't really matter. So it matters that you take part. So
it matters in the sense that people that participate and feel like they were robbed and it's impossible to win, they don't feel motivated to participate again.
Then we have to subdivide the competition.
That's the problem. But then, I mean, if we had a category for JavaScript, we had 2 entries. Does it make sense to have a JavaScript category?
That's not enough, I think. 2 entries is not enough.
Yeah.
So yeah, but
like,
this
for
is a problem
example,
for the organizers.
TIC 80 was an overwhelming surprise, and I'm sure, I know, but I can't reveal that there will be more TIC 80 stuff planned throughout the year, because a lot of people became interested in the TIC 80. Also for the live shader byte battle thing that happened, but also for size optimizing stuff and doing small games and stuff like that. It's an interesting platform. So I'm similar to that. I think other platforms can also have a specific compo for them, as long as they are properly planned out and announced, and the community rallied around to make JavaScript great again, stuff like that.
Yeah, I agree. But coming back to the point, 512 is a very interesting region, and we have to kind of structure the details, but I think it's a very, very sweet spot, even for DOS. I mean, I can't imagine like after doing memories, I wouldn't know how possibly 512 bytes are to be filled, but just as a number, as a raw number without a category attached to it, 512 is very interesting, because it combines a lot of fields, and even if you have to subdivide them again for the competition, 512 is a very sweet spot for good intros.
There was a question on by Evo P on the about the TIC 80 doing sound. The TIC 80 can do sound. You can do sound on 500 and 256 bytes. You kind of lose some bytes to set things up, so I don't think the byte battle would be the best place for you to try to do sounds, and I think we just assumed that people would not want to do sounds on the byte battle, but it would be interesting to see that. I don't know how we would manage that with the DJ though. Would we have to mute the DJ when the sound is playing? What if the sound is extremely annoying? So I don't know how that will work out, but it is possible. It is possible. Ilmenit, your thoughts about the whole 512 byte category thing?
So first, thinking about the old platforms, as Rrrola said, that's the place for compression. And with compression, you can really do a lot. So I was making some compression for 256, and the compressor didn't bring any value. So basically, compressed data was just slightly bigger, like with the executable at the end than the 256. But clearly, you can save a lot of space with compression on higher sizes. So that's one thing. Second, if you think really about the size coding and how what was mentioned here a lot of times, that you have to do a lot of reuse of data, of code, and of code as data or data as code, and so on, self-modifying code, and many things. If you go with higher sizes and you really want to squeeze everything possible from this size, then it's going to take hell a lot of time, really, because I think even with 256, I was asking in the chat the other guys how long it takes for them to make some intro, because for example, for me making this train, it took like dozens of hours. And if I think about really squeezing maximum of double the size, then with compression it's maybe triple the size. Then I don't think I would have time to invest myself into this.
Yeah, that's one of the arguments that a lot of the size coding community say when I ask about why not 512 bytes. Also, you guys do realize that whatever you type on the chat is seen on the stream, so as like weird snippets. Just saying, I probably should have warned you earlier than this, than at the end of the stream, but yeah. Anyways, any last thought you guys want to give or discuss or anything? Otherwise, I'm gonna wrap this up. Rrrola, any last words?
Just thanks for having us. It was fun revisiting code entries and seeing what the others think.
Yep.
I would like another lovebyte or something similar. That's my jam for those little entries for everything.
Yep. Looking forward to another lovebyte as well. Hellmood, any last words?
Yeah, just an emotional fanboy moment. Like 10 years ago, I wrote Rrrola an email to explain me how his pulse is working, and now I'm like vis-a-vis and having a chat with him. So that I feel honored to be in the same chat room as Rrrola. So, and I'm glad you're back. Like after your short breaks, that you're back again at what you can do best, like blowing our minds. I'm really glad you're back.
Ilmenit, any last words before I close this out?
Just I wanted to thank you for organizing all of this and really inviting us. It's great to meet the best size coders from those platform. It's amazing to be part of this. Thank you.
Thank you guys for joining. Sorry about the technical difficulties early on, but the internet is what it is, not reliable. So yeah, hope everybody had fun. See you next episode of Mystery Demoscene Theater. Bye bye everyone. Have a great weekend and see you at revision. Bye.
Bye bye. See ya.
Bye.
In